Once again, this is Adam Fishman, American Friends of Likud. Welcome to the American Friends of Likud conference call briefing today with Dr. Anat Berko, member of Knesset for Likud. We've had a very trying week, starting with the murder of Daphna Meir in Otniel at the beginning of the week, and as I said in the email, followed the next day by the stabbing of a pregnant woman in a store in Tekoa. And it seems that things have not necessarily changed or gotten any better. However, I did read that there were certain closures on Arab workers coming into some of the yeshuvim, and that seems to have stemmed some of the tide. Of course, when that happens, it seems like they open it up again and say, okay, now let's move forward. We're going to hear from Dr. Berko perhaps about that. Her expertise will be explained by our moderator and board member, Sarah Beiser. I'm not going to continue anymore to take up any more time, but hand it straight over to Sarah to introduce Dr. Berko so we can get on to hear more of her insight and her expertise regarding what's going on today in Israel. Sarah?
Adam, thank you very much. Member of Knesset, Dr. Anat Berko, was chosen personally by Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu in the last election to serve the public as a member of the Likud party. Dr. Berko is a member of the prestigious Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, including 5 secret subcommittees. In addition, Dr. Berko is a member of the Constitution, Law, and Justice Committee and the Education, Culture, and Sports Committee. She is a very active legislator, especially on the subject of fighting against terrorism and improving the IDF soldier status. Recently, she announced her candidacy for becoming the next chairperson of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. And you'll note that we call her Dr. Berko because she has a PhD, if I'm not mistaken, or she's done her PhD research in terrorism and the mindset of a terrorist. And I'm sure that...
if I could just add to that, Dr. Berko stayed in the IDF, and she attained the rank of lieutenant colonel, serving 25 years in the IDF. And I don't know if I sent this to you, Sarah, but she was a lecturer at the Lauder School of Government at the IDC in Herzliya, and was a visiting professor, or is continuing to be a visiting professor at the George Washington University. Her research, as you alluded to, her research area includes suicide bombings, and in fact she has interviewed Hamas leader Ahmad Yassin. We've said quite a bit about her, and now we're going to hear from her.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam and Sarah, and thank you for this call. First of all, it's a great pleasure to speak to all of you, because if I'm speaking to you, I know that you are very involved in supporting us, and thanks for that. I would like to start with the current situation here in the Middle East around us, and to emphasize that everything that has happening around us, and just today I came from my tour in the border with Gaza to look very closely and to speak with the people who live in this area, and to see and to watch and to observe what is going on the other side of the border, because actually Gaza I know very well from inside. And the joke in our family that I know Gaza very well because I served in the Southern Command many years. And my youngest daughter right now, she's a lieutenant at the intelligence, and I told her, you know Gaza very well, because not because now you're researching Gaza, but because you were, I was pregnant with you when I was inside Gaza. So this was something that I told her. But we see that the Hamas and the Hamas now combine forces also with ISIS. And although it's very difficult for them to infiltrate weapons to Gaza Strip, because the Egyptians flooded the area against the tunnels and against this weapon that actually direct also not just to Israel, also to the Egyptian regime, because Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, which in a coup, it's not a coup, in a coup they took actually the regime in Egypt, and Morsi right now is the enemy of Sisi that actually I think saved Egypt from being another failed state. We see that the Hamas didn't give up even after the last operation in Gaza, and putting a lot of efforts to empower himself and to get and to be able to empower himself to the next round with Israel. And although Israel sent a lot of trucks with stuff and even cement to reconstruction the houses in Gaza Strip, I think that most of them they used to reconstruct the tunnels and not the houses there. And so they are not going to solve the problem. It's very, very stimulating there, and people are the people there cannot make a living. It's difficult for them. We try to do our best, but it's very difficult because every penny that the Hamas get, even from if somebody want to support them, they use for terror and not for their own population. At least Hamas at that time, I think that we have deterrence against Hamas because Hamas, not like ISIS, have their own people inside Gaza, and they need to take and to consider what the situation in Gaza when they are shooting and sometimes when other organizations shooting. But for us, Hamas are the address, and there is Islamic Emirate in Gaza right now. The other side, if we are going to the north, in the north we have Hezbollah that now we cannot think about Hezbollah as just as terror organization, but Hezbollah and also Hamas now they are terror organizations, but with ability of military and very sophisticated weapon. We see that there is a lot of weapons that was smuggled by Iran through Syria to the Hezbollah, more than 100,000 rockets actually directed to inside Israel, every sensitive infrastructure, and at the same time they try to open another front with Israel in the Golan Heights and the Golan borders from the side what was before Syria, not anymore, because there is no something like Syria anymore. And in my point of view, if they will try to shoot from Syria, we need to answer in Lebanon, in their area of the Dahya, the same area that Israel actually bombed at the Second Lebanon War. With Jordan now, the situation also is not so good because there are a lot of refugees, real refugees, inside Jordan. They changed the fabric of the population there, and I hope that things will be okay there. But it's very sensitive, and there is intention also to have how do you say it? It's a big fence or security fence even in the eastern side of Israel. Inside Israel and in as Adam started in Othniel, there was a terror attack, and a mother of 6 was slaughtered by a 15-year-old boy, Palestinian boy, and a day after that, a pregnant woman was stabbed. This situation, as I call this situation, and I called it also in my book, The Smarter Bomb, about women and children in terrorism, I call it Shahada Mania. We see that those people around us, the Palestinian and the influential of the Daesh, the ISIS ideology, push them to be much more aggressive, much more violent, and they expose in the social media to incitement, and to incitement also from the PA, from Hamas. And even last day, we found seeds of cell of Shiite Hezbollah inside Tulkarim. So the problem right now that the big conflict is between Shia Iran and the nexus between Iran, Syria, Assad regime, Alawistan, and Hezbollah against, and it's the Shia version of ISIS in my point of view, and Sunni ISIS, that this is the superpower that came in the last 2 years actually, because Shia Iran and this agreement that the West choose to gamble on the horse of Shia Iran. This is the big problem in the eyes of the Sunni countries, and now we see also many wars using by proxies. Let's take in Yemen the Houthis by Iran against the Sunni Saudi Arabia, and this conflict is very, very dangerous. And this potential of conflict, as I call it, and as I said more than 2 years ago, I think that we are in the middle of the Third World War, and I think that the West do not understand that. The West do not understand that because the West have another mindset. I can tell you that I'm from a Jewish Iraqi family, and I was born to a family that the first language was Arabic, not Hebrew, and I was born in Israel. And my family dedicate the life, not to say we are refugees every day, but to build this country like the others, like let's take the family of my husband, that they were a Holocaust survivor, and they built Moshav near Zichron Yaakov, and he and I, although we were born to families of survivors and refugees, all of them, we built the country from nothing, and the families here in Israel wanted to give the best education to the children and to raise them to work and to be productive for this society. The other side of the Palestinian side, still now after 70 years, they're speaking about the right of return, which I call the claim of return. And now when you see millions of refugees, real refugees, it doesn't make sense that they have UNRWA and the UN that supports them and do not let them to take responsibility. Let's say in Gaza, this Islamic Emirate, and in the West Bank, they have the PA, the Palestinian Authority, and they still use the money and and UNRWA as a shadow, not to take their responsibility to their own people, because de facto they have autonomy in the West Bank. They want to have their own state, and as Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, declared that he's ready to do so, but he's not ready to gamble on our life, which means every inch that we left, there was terror against us. Even right now, we see the same thing. If we are going to leave the borders for the Palestinians, the PA is very weak. And even if they now work with the IDF against terrorism, still, on the other hand, they incite their own people to go and to stab and to go to uprising, intifada in Arabic, and to kill Jews. And they're speaking about Jews, and they're not speaking about, Israelis. At the same time, I can tell you from my experience, short experience in the Knesset, because as Adam told you and Sarah told you, I served in the army many years, and I was in the academia, wrote books, and conduct research, first-hand research inside the Israeli jail with security prisoners. And I met face-to-face with terrorists, Palestinian terrorists. And what I can tell you that this hatred against the West and against the Jews as representative in the West in this area, this is something that is very, very deep, and they raise their children for that. And all this socialization process that the children raising in is to be a shaheed, not to be a martyr or not to be doctors, not to be lawyers, not to be something else, but as one of them told me, the smell of blood is very usual for us. So we see this aggression and this even Arab citizens that, 3 weeks ago there was a terror attack in Tel Aviv of an Israeli Arab citizen. And although a lot of the Arab citizens condemned that, but also we saw a few of them who celebrate that. And even in the Knesset, I see that many Arab Knesset members acting against the country, collaborating with BDS, initiating abroad and even inside the country. And when they call two-state solution, they wouldn't dare or they wouldn't say a Jewish state, democratic Jewish state, and aside her a Palestinian state. So I dedicated my time to legislation against terrorism, even minors in terrorism, against also to expose this hypocrite behavior of some of the Arab Knesset members like Ahmad Tibi and others, and to give a lot of speech around the situation and around the history and to give the details to the audience, because everything is recorded on TV, and it's very good to give the information to the audience, because sometimes many people do not understand that this conflict didn't started after the 67 war. And it's not just about the 67 borders. A lot of them speaking about the 48 borders, and it's like let's now go to the partition resolution in 47, rejected and started the war against Israel. So we have a very dangerous enemy. In my point of view, we need to we need to ask the West, if they want to solve this problem and to go to solutions, to take off from the table this claim of return, because nobody would like to have his own country and to settle his citizen on the other country, the state of Israel. And when they are claiming about apartheid country, how they could claim that when they want to put their own citizens, and when we see that Israel acting in a great democracy, and believe me that even security prisoners in Israel get the best treatment, not like in Guantanamo and other or Abu Ghraib. So we have a very, very, if I could say, savage enemy that at the same time we need to struggle with the BDS outside, and to say that sometimes this is the enemy is inside us, and also sometimes there are some naive Israelis that believe that if we'll give up and we give this and that, everything will be okay. We tried that in Gaza Strip, and they shoot missiles and targeting civilians, and it comes this round every few years, and sometimes shorter than that. And I think that we have to be very careful and not to gamble on this on the PA, because they are very weak. That if and they cannot hold the keys for anything, because they're so weak that the Hamas can take over like they did in Gaza. On the other hand, we have to be very careful, because there is a war in our borders, but it's not our war. So we need to be careful that they wouldn't use Al-Aqsa or other triggers to direct the fire toward Israel. So it's a very sensitive situation, and we do whatever we can, and we struggle. And our children serving in the army, and we do our best. And Israel is very, very determined to fight this terrorism. Everybody from our citizens a lot of them carry weapons. And it's not like the U.S. We have people who served in the army, and they know how to use the weapon. For example, I carry weapon more than 30 years. And just today, my youngest daughter, that she's serving in the army right now, went with her father, who is also my husband's senior officer, who served as a senior officer in the army and still active in reserve. And she went to buy also a weapon, to be able to carry a weapon, and it's like something that's obvious. So the citizens are very, very active, and we try to do our best. Tomorrow morning I'm going to visit in the Shiva in Otniel of the family of Daphna Meir, Zichronah Livracha, and let's hope that things like that wouldn't happen again. But I'm so sorry to say that if a 15-year-old boy, and I have all the characters of those boys because I interviewed them and have psychological tests and questionnaires around this issue many, many years, and we see that for them it's also to say here this is a peer group pressure, incitement, and feeling that they need to show off, sometimes to take revenge, but also with this they try to rely on our morality, that as minor we wouldn't do anything. So I actually have a new legislation that even terrorists, minors around the age of 12 to 14, will, if they murdered, they will be in a closed shelter or as inmates until the age of 14, and after that, a judge can sentence them in jail. So the challenges are huge, and we are very lucky to have you supporting us. Thank you, and now, Adam, Q&A if you want.
Yeah, a couple of questions. Sarah?
Yes, I'm here. Anat, a question from one of our board members, Steve Goldberg in California. Do you agree that the so-called confidence-building measures, like taking down checkpoints, result in terror attacks that could have been prevented?
You know, there is a dilemma, Ken. There is a dilemma because we want that they will be able to provide for their families and work and not to stay on checking points hours. And so the balance between this and the need to keep the security of our citizens is the balance that we need to do. I wouldn't take any risk. I prefer that they will stay and it will be difficult to infiltrate to Israel, then people will be murdered, at least until this wave will over.
Do you agree with what appears to have been Israel's policy for a fairly long time, that we are willing to exchange bodies, or we're really willing to give back hundreds of terrorists for Israeli bodies or for one or two alive Israelis. Do you think that's a good idea, and why or why not?
Sarah, I have a great article that I wrote for Steve Emerson more than 2 years ago about the exchange of bodies. I think that you need to read that. In Islam, for us, the bodies are very important. They also start to ask for bodies because they imitate every step that we are doing and the Zionists did in the history. They imitated us to be able to create their own nation as a mirror imaging to our nation. And because of that, they also ask to have Jerusalem as a capital, although they don't have anything in Jerusalem. Even Mecca is not the capital of Saudi Arabia. Okay, they have Al-Aqsa. So what? It's not a capital because you have something that is holy to your religion. And the problem here that we want to give the families everything. But I think that something changed, and we saw that at the last operation when they try even have two bodies of two soldiers, and we didn't give alive people for those bodies. And even one of the families declared of Hadar Golding. They have the bodies of Hadar Golding and Oran Shaul from the last operation in Gaza, Hamas, in the hands of Hamas. And the father of Hadar Golding, Zichronam Livracha, said that he wouldn't agree that will release terrorists for the body of his son. It's painful. It's painful because we want to bring them to Kever Israel and to bury them as Jews and they fight as warriors. But I think that let's say that even after the Gilad Shalit, that we released so many terrorists, those are the terrorists who in the last round were very active against Israel. Even some of them are still sitting in Istanbul and pulling the wires against Israel and conducting terror attacks.
Dr. Berko, Dr. Brian Katz, one of our President Club members, was very concerned about the fact that, speaking of bodies, that the bodies of the terrorists in this current terror wave are still being returned to the PA. Why are they continuing to be returned? Isn't that if anything can be considered a deterrent, it certainly has proven in the past to be one. Why has that not been employed? Or perhaps more the question is, why is the return of the bodies being employed even during this current terror wave?
The Minister of Defense decided that he will return the bodies in conditions that they will bury them in a very small funeral and in the middle of the night. And if they are going to have festivals, he wouldn't give the bodies. I think that the idea is to calm down the whole area, because we cannot ignore that around us there is a war. And we don't want that all those Muslims, Sunni and Shia, together will, united against us. So we are not going to be, it could be that we will be the cause that they will direct the fire against the state of Israel. So it's, I think that it's, he tried to calm down the area. Even the terrorist from Dizengoff, there was a very, very small funeral, 40 people, and they did it at night and finished. If not, it's something that they will speak about all the time, and it still will be, something that causes burning area, and we don't want that.
Anat, you spoke about your recent legislation to enact punishment for a minor who kills. Yes. What is the view, or what is the academic literature, or what does it say about that new approach? And is that a widely view in the Knesset?
My legislation passed two steps in my legislation, and now I am going to prepare it to another vote in the Knesset. And I'm speaking about distinction between criminals. The Minister of Legislation or Justice, she said that they want to do together criminals and terrorists, and I'm against that. So point of view, there is many minors. They use minors against Israel, and they rely on our morality that we wouldn't sentence them to jail. So it's something, my legislation to reduce the age between 14 to 12 of terrorists, that they would be able to sentence to, if not to jail, between 12 to 14, to go to a shelter, but after that move to jail at the age of 14. It could prevent many terror attacks, because we see how they use minors, and they think that Israel do not have any answer against using minor in terror. For minors in this age, when they're how do you say, they do not feel a sexual identity is uncertain, and they want to improve that they are the machos, they are the men. They know how to recruit them. The terrorists recruit them near schools. They're acting like drug dealers, and we see that they use the same tactics like drug dealers and pedophiles and abuse children in this way. We saw that even in the Gaza Strip, they use them as human shields, and they don't care about the life of those children. And so we need to expose the fact that, and I'm saying it all the time, that Ismail Haniyeh, the Prime Minister of Hamas, didn't send his own children to blow themselves up or to stab other children. And actually, two of his sisters in Rahat in the Negev, and married Bedouin Israeli citizens, and they are Israeli citizens. At the same time, we see that even Bin Laden didn't send his own children, and also the head of the PA, Abu Mazen, didn't send his own children to commit terrorism, but instead of that, as one of the Shahid's mother told me, they send their own children to get the best education in the West. So I think that this law is must, and I'm going to push it. Another law that in the military court, we can use the products of military court and to sue them, those terrorists, also in civil court, to get money against the terror attack if we have casualties. So this is something that I'm doing, and I focus on my expertise. And now I'm a candidate to be the head of this committee, prestige committee of foreign affairs and security and foreign affairs. And it will be the first time that a woman is a candidate to this committee, to be a head of this committee, and we'll see.
Anat, I think Adam is permitting me to ask one more question. What do you foresee?
The last one, okay?
The last one. What do you foresee in the coming? Yeah. What do you foresee in the coming months regarding the knife intifada?
It could go to two directions. I think that Hamas is trying, and also Hezbollah, as we saw the last few days, trying to push the PA and the people in the West Bank to carry out a third intifada and to use weapons to shoot, not just stabbing or running over, but also to shoot and to perhaps using explosive belt as suicide bombers and things like that. And I think that the last few days, and especially after the speech of Abu Mazen, he understood that it's not just about the Israelis, it's about the survival of the Palestinian Authority, and it could be that could have the same destiny that they had in Gaza when the Hamas members threw them from the roof of Gaza and they killed them. And they escaped to Israel and asked for help. So I'm in every opportunity I said that they don't have to rely on us, that we will help them if the Hamas will take over and start to kill them, because this incitement and because they can lose control. And in this matter, it's the Hamas will try to take over, and this will be the end of the PA. We don't want that. I think that we want to have the structure of the PA to have this Palestinian autonomy in this area, but at the same time, the PA tried to impose the international community to push Israel to do things that are against our interests. And I think that we need to be strong and to keep our interests, especially our security, because we cannot rely on them and we need to rely on our forces. So thank you so much for listening, and thanks for supporting us. And let's say for us it's good night, and for you have a great day and a great weekend, and Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you very much, Dr. Berko, and thank you, Sarah, and of course, good luck on your candidacy in becoming the next chairperson of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee. And thank everyone for joining us on the call today. Continue to do more exclusive briefings and conference calls such as this. And thank you very much again, and good night.
Thank you.